disruptors. That was supposed to be Julia Louis-Dreyfus's talk, which
And
it
it
was
wasn't.
not.
Well, that's just because she co-opted what Kevin Spacey, that's what they billed him as.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you do that when that's not your thing? You just leave the title there and talk about whatever you want.
Sad.
I still think they missed the boat with all of that.
missed the boat.
They built her up in the intro as, obviously the actress and everything else that we know her from. But then they were also talking about the activist and the environmentalist. And
They didn't get into that at all.
And they never got into that. And
No, they didn't.
That's what would have really impassioned us to really want to listen to this conversation. And everybody's like, well, this was Terry Gross's fault, or this was her fault, or no, I think, and it seemed like, it was only like maybe a 2-week turnaround of like, oh crap, we lost this guy. Now we've got to do something else.
It didn't seem like they had time to practice.
No. So,
I don't think they knew their
or even
audience.
prep to like, so they're like, okay, here we've got a top named interviewer from Philadelphia that everybody might know. So let's put her up on stage and ask her questions. And instead of saying, okay, well, here's your audience as a bunch of architects that are sustainably minded, are equity minded, are diverse minded, want to hear about ecology. They want to hear about this. They want to hear about that. Sure, we wanted to hear maybe some stories about like, what was it like to work on Seinfeld or Veep or whatever else, as maybe some anecdotes to the greater thing, which was her activism and her environmentalism
And her value for architecture.
It's too expensive.
I was going to say it's really too expensive.
So, Cormac, I have to ask you, if you're sitting here at 1:00 in the morning, and you just came up with in a minute and a half an outline that they could have used to turn that interview into something meaningful for the 8,000 architects sitting in that room. And how does the AI totally miss the boat on that?
I don't know. It's the whole time I was sitting there listening to her, which, sad to say, I just listened to that interview that she gave with Mark Maron on his podcast, which was virtually the same thing as what she did with Terry Gross.
Oh, no.
And the whole time I sat there, and I was like, I could have given that interview for her, but what I wanted to know is what was her opinions on these activism things that impassion her so much. Because she even talked a little bit about that on WTF with Mark Maron, and it was just like, it's there. It's just there waiting for somebody to ask the question. Why didn't they have her ask the questions?
Yeah.
Welcome to Archispeak, a podcast about all things architecture. My name is Neil Pan. Join me and my co-hosts, Evan Troxel and Cormac Phelan, every other week as we explore what it is like to work in the profession of architecture. Have you ever worked with an architect? Have you ever wanted to be an architect? Maybe you're in school and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Or perhaps you know exactly what it is like as you've been working in the profession for a long time, and you know that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Or maybe, just maybe, you're planning on changing the world. Join us as we have a casual conversation about all things architecture. It's time for some Archispeak.
Welcome to episode 91 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And this episode of Archispeak is sponsored by Arcat. Arcat is an online resource for all of your building product needs. Check out all the features they offer at arcat.com. Another sponsor is David Brown International. DBI is a professional recruitment and consulting firm for the architecture and interior design industry. Visit them at dbifirm.com. We're also sponsored by Drobo. Drobo is a family of safe, expandable, yet simple to use smart storage devices. Drobos are designed to protect your important data forever. Visit them at www.drobo.com to learn more. And we'll talk about each of them a little later in the show. But first up, we have some friends of the show to announce.
We have two friends of the show. We have a repeat friend of the show, and that is Paul Reynolds. Paul is a Indianapolis architect, and he has been a great friend of the show. And so thanks for listening. We really appreciate your donation. Second friend of the show, brand new friend of the show, is Philip Briggs. Thanks for becoming a friend of the show at Archispeak. Everybody can become a friend of the show and help support it and make it happen. You can do that by going to archispeakpodcast.com/donate. Any donation over $5, you can get your name read on the show if you choose. So head on over there to archispeakpodcast.com/donate and donate today. Thanks.
All right. Well, we have our very own architect ninja warrior with us, the rock star Rosa Sheng from the Equity by Design Hackathon at the AIA Convention most recently last week. Welcome, Rosa, to the show.
Thanks, Neil. Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
So, Rosa, you had the Equity by Design Hackathon at the AIA Convention. Tell us a little bit about what the goal was for that and what happened.
Sure. So this is actually our second hackathon. We had our first one last year in Atlanta, and we were so inspired and energized by the people that came to the event and the outcomes that we thought we're addicted. We have to, do this again, right? So we drummed up an idea of the most popular topic of the last year's hackathon, which was architecture and. So that idea is that traditional practice as we know it today is going to change and be different in the future. And instead of just sitting around and waiting for it to happen, the idea of hacking it or being future thinking or using design thinking to drive solution or the new business plan or the new idea as a leader, right, thought leader, was better than sitting around and complaining that architecture isn't the same as it used to be, right?
Yeah, you don't want to sit around and wait for it to be handed to you.
Yes. And then on top of that, Phil Bernstein, who is a vice president at Autodesk, also what we call an intrapreneur. He's an entrepreneur, but he works in a large organization. He wrote a manifesto late last year called The Era of Connections. And that was something that really inspired me because it talks about the different ages of architecture and how we used to hand draw, and then we went into CAD, and then there was Revit, and then what's next. So it fit nicely into this kind of discussion of how will we practice in the future and what technology will we use to help transform practice, right? So there's a dialogue there. And then added to that, we had two other entrepreneurs as part of the panelists and myself talking about the startup mentality, regardless of if you're doing a real company or if you're doing a nonprofit. We had Robert Yuen of Section Cut, who I call a serial entrepreneur, and I don't mean Kellogg's or Frosted Mini Wheats. He is amazing. He started in architecture, was engulfed in digital fabrication, and had started Section Cut as a nonprofit solution to build a community, basically, of young emerging professionals transitioning from academia into practice and the resources that they would need to be successful. And that's gotten quite a following. But that wasn't enough. Then he went on to decide that he wanted to do this kind of digital span of supporting architecture, but on the digital side. So he isn't doing, he used to be freelance architecture or architecture for hire, doing actual projects, but now he's on the digital side, creating website platforms for architects that are kind of ready-made, kind of like Squarespace, but for architects.
Oh,
so it's
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, monograph.io.
Yeah, that just came out recently, didn't it? Or at least I just saw a link to it recently. It looked beautiful.
Yes, and then he also has another company called Big Fluffy, which is a rendering, cloud-based rendering solution, which offers power and capacity to those who don't have speed of rendering or have to outsource it. So anyway, and then there was one last person who is actually not in architecture at all. I met her at TEDx Philadelphia, Yasmin Mustafa, and she's a CEO of her own startup company, which designs wearable. I don't know what the correct term is, but alarm or jewelry that basically acts as a deterrent against attacks. So she was traveling through South America and realized that there was this problem of women getting attacked that were traveling alone. So mace wasn't working, and all these other things were harmful to women. So she came up with this jewelry thing that basically hones, or it sends off an alarm, and then it also tells your loved ones where you are. So we had these three completely different people leading the charge of design thinking, taking risks, having a hacker's mindset or mentality, and applying it to architecture. And then the second half, we had people actually be part of the real hackathon. It was a short hackathon. It was usually a hackathon is like a day or 2 days or 3 days. And in this week, it was condensed into 2 hours for the second half. And then we had teams. We coached them. We walked around. Basically, they had to define the problem by ideating and talking about all the different things that are challenging with architecture. Then they had to hone in on one that they were going to solve for the business plan. Then they ideated about a solution, and they came to agreement about which was the best business plan or solution. And then they had to do a 5-minute elevator pitch. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
To ask
That's a lot
people
for 2 hours.
Yeah.
that had never met each other before.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is they all succeeded. They all thrived. It was as if the entrepreneurs in the room and all our excitement and energy made them think that they could do this. In a usual situation, you would be like, I can't do this.
Right.
This is impossible.
Totally.
But we gave them the lens of, you enter this room and it's yes and. You never say, no, I can't do it. It's yes and. So that kind of reality distortion field of this is your opportunity to shine and make a difference. Nice. Or just think differently. They all did. And so we had a winner at the end of the day. There's a group that is called FIM, which is Firm Information Management or Modeling. And it's kind of, actually, I'm not gonna tell you because Lillian, my counterpart and hackathon aficionado, will kill me because she wants to launch it as part of her blog post. So that's a little teaser to pay attention to the follow-up blogs that will come out and talk about each group's business plan and their kind of experience about learning. But the best part of it was, we had a curated collection of equitable practice seminars and workshops, because last year a lot of people complained that there weren't that many of these topics being discussed. So as a solution or brainstorm, we asked the whole network of people, that we are connected to submit seminars and workshops. And we had unofficially a curated collection. There were AIA National's own curated collection. And out of the 11 that were submitted, 7 got accepted. So we said, hey, we have critical mass. We're a curated collection. Mm-hmm. So on our website, we advertised for, they weren't all sponsored by Equity by Design. Some of them, Amy Kalar, who is Archimom, mm-hmm. As her blog post, and she's also one of this year's Young Architect Award recipients. She led a group called Building the Business Case for Women in Architecture, and that had like over 200 people in it, which is amazing. We had two besides the hackathon called Negotiation is Your Power Tool, talking about building up negotiation skills in not just women but men as well. And then we had one about work-life flexibility. And the amazing thing is, it wasn't just a group of women attending those seminars. It was actually a balanced, as any other seminar at convention, there was a lot of different types of people, and even more so in the hackathon. I think it was the most diverse group I have ever seen at convention, period. And we didn't solicit that. It just happened because of the topic, right? So we had millennials or, younger emerging professionals. We had, a lot of different races and ethnicities represented. We had both men and women, and we had people that were not in architecture, and we had people that were students. And we actually had somebody that identified as, technically the term is genderqueer, but somebody who's gender fluid, So that was really great and refreshing to have somebody who is open to being who they are and open to discussing it. And that actually came out in one of the icebreakers, where there was this kind of there was a a exercise called the egg, or of, getting to know each other. So in the egg, you're supposed to put things that all the group members have in common. And then outside the egg, you're supposed to put things that are unique to yourself, 3 things that are unique. So in talking, that group said, well, we're all women. And she said, no, actually, I'm not, I'm gender queer, gender fluid. And that was a good point of discussing that particular topic with that group. So I think each group had their own kind of revelations of how they're all different and how they're all, what common thread that they have, without intentionally saying, we're going to do a diversity or, inclusion exercise. We just told them to get to know each other, and here's an egg, and this is, these are the rules. And then they just all went at it and got to know a lot about each other.
That's great, because that's like one of these things where you're building these relationships that are going to last way beyond the convention, right?
That's correct.
You guys are this incubator for something that is so much bigger than just this one meetup.
Exactly. And people were regretful that they didn't sign up for it. We had 25 people officially. Some people popped in to just feel the energy. We had 65 people at the happy hour, including 2 of the presidential candidates. And one of them actually brought, Lanny McIntosh, he brought, I think, 6 or 7 of his people from his office to the happy hour, which was amazing.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. So
Very
people
cool.
had a lot of fun.
So as we all know, projects keep us pretty busy, and sometimes we feel like we could use another hand to help us out. Would you like to have somebody help you draw CAD details for you? Create BIM objects for you? How about write specifications for you? How about this quote-unquote assistants do all this work for free? Well, the helping hand is ARCAT, and ARCAT has already done all this work for you. Search the ARCAT libraries for CAD, BIM, specs, catalogs, videos, and more. All this content is created for you free of charge, and no registration is required. Stop registering on sites for content. Just come to ARCAT and find what you need. ARCAT has created a website devoted to you, the building professional, to find building products and information hassle-free. Check out ARCAT today at arcat.com.
So you guys also had a booth on the floor?
Oh, not Equity by Design, but I'm also part of the AIA National Diversity and Inclusion Council. And so I serve on that as a 3-year term. But a lot of these discussions and topics kind of overlap or blend, which is great. I'm also on the Equity and Architecture Commission. So in observing and listening to conversations with different groups, I pick up on things. And one of the things that we picked up on was that people actually don't really understand the difference between equity and equality on a fundamental level. And then people have different interpretations of the word diversity and inclusion. So that started us brainstorming about an idea that there's more words that people are afraid to even talk about: sexism, discrimination, meritocracy, a bunch of these words. So we brainstormed to come up with this game called Equity Jeopardy. I don't know if that's like a trademark or anything, but learn the lexicon. Okay. So Equity Jeopardy, learn the lexicon. The idea being there are 15 words. There's definitely more words, but we started off with 15. And it plays like Jeopardy, where the definition is on the side, really big red letters, and then there's a bunch of these words not highlighted. So you have to pick one of the words. And then so you pick your word, and then we do a reveal on the next page, like, oh, ding, 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 there's the right answer. And then you have a discussion, if you're playing in a group, like, well, I thought that meant this. No, I thought that meant that. And then the third slide is a picture or a cartoon or something that further informs the dialogue or conversation or the other way of thinking, the point and then the counterpoint of that particular word. And it was a hit. We had so many people at the booth that were waiting in line to play the game. If you have a game, people will show up.
There
right?
you go. Yeah, or mimosas. We found that too.
Or mimosas.
Yeah.
We also had luggage tags, so that helped too. People liked our little giveaway item. And we also had a sign-up sheet for people that wanted to be sent the game, or we're hoping we'll develop it into an app eventually so that people can play it, with friends, at their offices as lunch and learns, as happy hours. We were joking around that if they got an answer wrong, you would have to drink. You know,
There you go. Yeah.
Nice.
right? So God forbid you better study up on those words, those terms. So yeah, the term, I'd like to ask you guys, the term equity and equality, what do you guys think that the words mean, or do you have, or you don't know, and that's totally fine too.
Well, I always think of that graphic, the equality, which is the three people standing behind the fence that are all standing on the same height platform. And these are three people of different height. And it's just the image association that comes to mind because it's such a great graphic. And then the image next to it is all of the people's heads kind of at the same level, so they can all see over the fence. So the tall person doesn't need a platform, the medium person has a small platform, and the short person has a tall platform, so that they can all equally see. They all have the same ability to see over the fence. And this is something that I think all firms struggle with, because as we go through, we all went through the same architecture school, and we all saw how some people really struggled, and we all saw how there was, the one or two people who just did awesome the whole way through, and there wasn't any type of system in place to help those people who needed it the most. And so what I noticed when I was going through school was they continually did really poorly, and I'm like, man, good for you for sticking with this, because I wouldn't be sticking with it if I was having that rough of a time. But I see the same thing in our firms today. I see people who have made it. I'm using my podcasting air quotes. And they're looking at people who are struggling, and they're like, well, I did it. That's the sense that I get. And so why can't you do it? And it's because everybody is equipped with completely different tools.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I think of when I think of equity and equality, and how badly we need to, like, I hate to say level the playing field, but there needs to be tools in place to help people succeed, because if the people in your firm can't succeed, the firm cannot succeed. Period.
Right. If there's the weakest link, right? Yeah. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And then there's another graphic that we threw in that game, which is a cartoon. And this guy is saying, okay, everybody climb that tree. And they're all animals. So you have like a penguin, you have a monkey, you have a bird, you have an elephant, you have a fish, and then something else. So who do you think can't climb the tree? The elephant and the fish, right? So you could be the elephant or the fish in a situation, and you could be the monkey in another situation, right? So it also kind of says we'll have different situations where we're going to ace it, and then there's other situations where we're just going to struggle. Right. So not everybody has the same. It's not like, oh, it's the charity case, the one person that always does poorly or always needs charity. We all need charity at some point.
For one reason or another, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we're all parents here, and we're always telling our children, it's like, there are going to be times that you're going to shine, and it's going to play to your strengths. And then there's other times you're going to struggle. And it's those times that you struggle that you need to seek out help from those that are going to shine, and vice versa, because there's going to be people who are going to be better at something than others, and that's what the teamwork is all about, is don't be afraid to ask. And I was actually having a conversation with the intern in our office today. She's still in school, and I was talking about the feeling of overwhelmingness. That this is your first time in an office. You're used to the studio profession, the studio environment, and it can be overwhelming. And it was like, that's the time when you need to ask the help the most. It's not the time to sit back and say, well, I'll figure it out. I'm smart. I'll figure it out. The smart is asking for help and seeking out the people who are willing to give you the help. And so I think that kind of, there's my 2 cents of to kind of go with what Evan was saying.
I want to take a moment and talk about our sponsor, Drobo. Drobo is a family of safe, expandable, yet simple-to-use smart storage devices. Drobos are designed to protect your important data forever, even in the event of a hard drive crash. There are only two types of people in this world: those that have experienced a hard drive failure and those that will. If you're a Mac user, you have the option of using Apple's built-in backup software, Time Machine, but it's not cross-platform, and if the drive fails, you've lost your backup. Drobos can hold 4, 5, or more drives, so if one drive fails, you simply replace it with another drive. You can even replace it with a larger capacity drive, and the Drobo software intelligently repopulates your data across all of the drives so your data is protected. Instead of daisy chaining more and more drives to your computer as your storage needs expand, simply add larger drives to your Drobo. Now that's my kind of storage, simple and easy. I also want to tell you about a new feature that Drobo recently introduced that is called My Drobo. What My Drobo allows you to do is turn a Drobo into your own private cloud server. With My Drobo, you can create users and give them password-protected access to your entire Drobo or just one folder or even a specific file. I recently got to try this when a friend of mine requested a document that was far too large to email. Using the Drobo dashboard software, I created a username and password for him, shared the file, and emailed the link to My Drobo. He was able to easily log in, see, and download the file. Simple. Not only have I shared files, but I've also used the My Drobo feature to remotely access my data while out of the office. The beauty of this is that I maintain control over who has access to my data, and it's not on someone else's server out there on the internet. Simple and safe. There's so much more to learn about having a Drobo. Check out their website at drobo.com, and if you decide to buy, then use the special Archispeak podcast offer code of ARC100. That's ARCH100 to receive 10% off your purchase of a Drobo. Find the Drobo that's right for you at www.drobo.com, and thanks to Drobo for sponsoring this episode of Archispeak.
So what do you guys think of diversity as what does that mean to you, if anything? What's your take on that?
This kind of plays in, for me, it plays into something that Rem said. It was one of the things that I could actually pick out because I could not understand what he was saying where I was sitting. I think there was a serious audio problem in that room. But one thing that he said that really stuck with me was that he likes talking to people who, I'm trying to think of how he put it, but I think he said disagree or have a different viewpoint, right? Instead of people who have the same viewpoint. And this is something that, again, I notice a lot in firms is we tend to gravitate toward people who are very similar.
Yes.
Right? Because if people agree, yes, 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 all you hear is yeses, then guess what? The work is going to be exactly the same every time. And so then you get to rely on this kit of parts and you get to be really efficient and you get to solve the problem the same way over and over and over again. And so to me, diversity means experience. Diversity means a complete range of experience. Male, female, different continents around the world, different sized families. It means all of these different things. And so to me, the more diverse of a team that you can bring to the table, the better the solution could possibly be, because innovation is bringing two things together that somebody else hasn't thought of, right? And so the bigger the range of things that you have to bring to the table, there's a way better chance that that's actually going to happen.
Definitely. Wow, you guys are great.
It's
I
because
always knew that, but
it's funny because
you just
it's like
affirmed it.
These are the things that you think about because you observe them happening all the time. You observe the wrong thing happening.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I think people are fearful of expressing their ideas because they do see the negative impact where you're the one that seems to be contrarian in the room when there's a discussion, but you actually need the contrarian point of view, the counterpoint, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It actually makes you think more, right? It's not just a quick response because you've done it, you've said it so many times before.
Right.
And I find that way more interesting when you there's going to be times when you sit through a talk or listen to a podcast or listen to somebody present something in your lunch and learn or whatever, and you might think that, oh, this is a boring talk. And when I go into those situations, everybody has those, right? We all know that there are some that are not going to hit home runs for you. But I always look for that one thing that I can take away from that. because everybody has something to offer, and it could be an offhanded comment. It might not be a main point at all. But to me, that's where we all should be looking for those opportunities, no matter what we're kind of interacting with.
Yes. And then this is off topic because it's going to veer off convention, but there's this group in London called Turncoats, and they've actually started this international movement of this. It's okay to debate. Like, debate has lost its true kind of goal. Like, we're all too nice to each other because we're afraid to disagree.
Yeah.
But it forces you to argue your first position, but then it also forces you to take the counter position to your own argument. Like, you have to argue against yourself.
I love that whole idea because I see my kids going through speech and debate classes, and they have to do the same thing.
Right.
They have to either get assigned a side to defend, or they get to pick it, but then they also have to flip it.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think that would be refreshing. So anyway, back on topic. Convention, Ninja Warriors.
That's right.
How many of you feel like you had to run literally across town to get to all the places that you were networking or meeting up with people that you had committed to meet up with?
I think that's a good analogy. I think Neil would agree with that.
Yeah.
Jumping through obstacles and
at some point I just gave up.
The last night it was raining pretty good. It wasn't like pouring rain, but it was more rain than we get over here in California for a much longer period of time. And it was like the last meetup that we were going to do, and we walked and we walked and walked, and we were pretty wet by the time we got to where we were going. And it was just like, oh, this is another adventure. It was totally one of those things where I'm going to look back really fondly on this convention because of all the adventures that we had. It was great.
Definitely. I had the same thing. And so I had to basically get from the convention center all the way over to Penn to, be part of a quick congratulatory reception for Denise, because Denise and Bob, won the gold medal this year, which was a phenomenal milestone in the whole equity conversation, because when we started this whole thing, it was, 2011, 2012, when the Pritzker Prize, petition and the whole discussion about, awarding joint work or, partnerships or collaboration versus the single vision.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this was and the whole room was very supportive of it, that this was AIA's moment to shine and, say we are ready to, make change and make change happen. And it was a beautiful occasion because of it, but it was also really significant for me to actually meet her, because I think she is the embodiment of Melinda May. And I think I mentioned before, there was the Shel Silverstein poem of this little girl claiming to eat the whale, and nobody believed her, and it took her 89 years to do it. And then she was this little old woman in the sketch with this carcass of a whale, and she was happy and she had this smile on her face. That smile that Denise had when I took the selfie reminded me of Melinda May at 89 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yay, she did it. And I think, but good God, there's more whale. And, we still have to keep going. Bring on bigger forks, right?
Yeah.
Bring out your fork. But it was good. It was good.
She kind of just sat there and soaked it in, which I thought was really appropriate when she was given the medal on stage. I thought that the video, I'm reading into it, I'm sure, but it was when Robert Ivy pulls the medal out of his pocket, it's like the whole thing just seemed pretty awkward and kind of a television moment kind of a thing. Like it was a little too, like everything to me was a little too scripted, but I enjoyed that she just soaked it in when she was sitting there and she just looked around.
Yes.
She said it was worth being a witch for. And she didn't mean it for herself. I think she meant it for what the door that this has opened.
Yes. She ate the whale.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because this is something that I had, I was thinking of when I was sitting there, and they're talking about this seminal moment of awarding joint gold medals and things like that. And they talked about the Pritzker and, the fiasco of that and everything else. And of all gold medals that were given, that could have been given jointly, to me, this seems like such a no-brainer that there is never a time in my architectural career that I've ever thought of Robert Venturi as a solo or Denise, as a solo. They've always been a collaborative group. It's never part and parcel. That why did it seem like this was such a pain to? And please don't get me wrong that I think it's fantastic, but everybody's making a deal out of, we had to bend the rules to give it to two people. And I was just like, but this is obvious that you can't give it to Robert without giving it to Denise, because there is no Robert without Denise. Yes. And I just thought it was so odd in a way.
But at least there was enough critical mass to believe in the right thing to change the rules, right?
Yes.
So just looking on the positive side, that thank goodness that times are changing and thoughts are changing. And, even the resolution passing last year for the Equity in Architecture Commission was a huge milestone of people believing enough that something good will come out of working together and changing, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think her point was definitely taken well, that this does open the door for, all of these collaborative teams
that's right,
that don't recognize just one, because that's what the rules say. We've been breaking rules this entire time. Forget the rules and recognize the work. And
LMN receiving the Firm Award was also a great triumph, because I believe the way they received the award was just as powerful as getting it for their design work. It was done with grace. They basically invited anybody from their firm that had attended convention up on the stage. And then for the people that couldn't make it, they had shot this video, which was very creatively done. But it showed the power and the diversity of their firm, and the collective of collaboration, right?
Yep.
One of the things that I thought was great about L&M, I'm glad you brought that up, because so when they were on stage and they were accepting their awards, and we were talking about this, I was listening to the guys talking about it and accepting the awards, but right immediately behind them was a younger kid, and who had to have been probably maybe 5 years out of school. He looked that young. And he was standing next to probably one of the oldest people at the firm. And they were sitting there and they were joking and yucking it up and laughing and stuff. And to me, what I took out of that is that they've created such a culture there that in the profession, we have this kind of like protect ourselves kind of thing. And so the older people are kind of almost fearful of the younger kids coming in and taking away their strength of position and all this other stuff. And there, so there's this kind of seclusion that everybody kind of takes. It's kind of this me concept. And they embodied a we concept, that everybody is there for the betterment of the firm. And so everybody was there, and you could just see it in just those two guys' faces that, here we are, it's the old guy who's passing the information and the torch down to the young kid, and the young kid who's got equally as much value and information to pass to the old guy. And it was just, you could see the cross communication between the generations, which I thought was great.
Yes, awesome. I agree.
Let's take a quick break and talk about our other sponsor, DBI. Finding the right talent to join your firm in this exceptionally competitive market can feel like an impossible task. With everything you already have to do to run your business every day, you need a trusted partner that knows your industry and has a proven track record of success. DBI is the global leader in executive recruitment and consulting for the architecture and interior design industry. With unmatched industry knowledge and a vast network of world-class architecture and design leaders, influencers, and talent, DBI provides global recruiting, staffing, and strategy. Does your firm need to hire talent? Is your in-house human resource team looking for support? Perhaps you want to build a brand designed to attract talent on your own. DBI understands the importance of having the right design talent in the right job at the right time. Their professional team ensures that every search is tailored to the specific needs of your firm. DBI is dedicated to delivering the highest quality results. Whether you're an architecture or design firm interested in finding your next great hire, or you're an architect that is looking to make their next career move, DBI is the right partner to help you find success. Learn more and contact the team at DBI today at their website, dbifirm.com, or call 888-774-9161. At DBI, placement is everything. And thanks to DBI for sponsoring this episode of the Archispeak podcast.
Here's another quick question for you. How many of you guys made it up to the art museum and did the Rocky cheer pose? Come on.
Neil.
I ran up the steps. I didn't
Okay.
do any poses, though.
Okay.
You did.
Yeah, we made it to the top. It was a beautiful day. We went up there. What was that, Friday?
Yeah.
Neil?
Yeah, I think that was Friday. We
That was
went
just
up there.
perfect out and perfect view of the city. It was loaded with tourists. It was awesome up there. And I saw your photos up there, Rosa. You guys,
Yeah. We went to town.
you guys jumped in the air. You did your power poses.
We did.
You had them all.
Rocky, we did Denise. Yeah.
There you go.
And it was a beautiful day.
That was the place to do it.
Yeah.
That was good. So, are you guys going to have some blog posts and stuff, kind of wrapping up
We will.
all that was going on there?
Yes, I'm a little behind, but I was going to do kind of what I told you today and highlights and links and such. And we had a Storify capture of, the tweet storm from the hackathon. And then we're going to have a blog series from Lillian and, her takeaways. And each of the teams are currently collaborating on their notes. So each of them will have blog posts. And there's going to be a lot of activity. We also launched our save the date for our fall symposium, which will be our 4th symposium, called none other than Equity by Design, drumroll, Metrics, Meaning, and Matrices. And the last word, matrices, coming from matrix and also mater, which is mother of the womb, and it actually means formation or creation. So it's this multi definition word that
Very appropriate.
yes, in essence means metrics being not just data, but how do we measure ourselves against the data?
Yeah.
Meaning, how do we take this away and apply it to our own lives, to our firms, to the profession? And then matrices, how do we create new practice, new forms, new solutions, and how do we connect them? The era of connections. How do we share all this open resource or, shared resource in order to solve the challenges we face today as a profession?
And that's happening, you said, in the fall.
Yes, October 29th at the San Francisco Art Institute. And we're hoping to have, opening reception on Friday before the event and, closing reception and some, optional tours or just for people to be able to go travel around on Sunday. And
Nice.
So make a weekend out of it and come to San Francisco, and enjoy another pivotal moment where we're going to reveal the 2016 survey findings.
Oh, nice.
And I can't be official with the number, but it is, approximately over 8,000, and it's actually 3 times
Wow.
over what we had in 2014. And we had amazing support from, all the collaterals, the AIA, National, NOMA, NCARB, AIA students, ACSA, all of them. They just said, what do you need? And we said, access for you to forward the survey to your constituents, and then they did it.
Yeah, and we were part of that too.
Yeah. So we're really
Very
excited
cool.
to be able to share the results. There's going to be some data points that repeat from last time, so you can connect the dots of what's happened over the 2 years. But then there's also new research topics and data points. So we hope one of you or all of you will join us.
Yep.
And it'll be good.
And the website, we'll have a link to it in
Yes.
the show notes, but can you give everybody the website to be watching for those articles that are going to be coming up?
Yes. We'll send you the link so that you can post it too. But basically, www.EQxDesign.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome. Thank you.
summarizing all that. It sounds like you guys had a blast and the biggest equity by design turnout ever. It sounds like it was awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Most impactful. Yes.
Very cool.
Did you give it all the keynotes?
I went to Julia Louise Dreyfus I missed Neri Oxman, and I missed Rem, unfortunately, because I was so triple booked with everything.
You wouldn't have understood.
The funny thing is, I got more from the Fast Company reporter.
You know what? So did I.
Totally.
So did I.
Too.
Him.
And just following the tweets when it was going on, actually that worked pretty well.
Translator.
Yeah, just following the hashtag for AIA helped a ton.
I'm glad somebody could translate what he was saying.
Well, it was. I think we were honestly we were in a bad spot. I mean, because
okay.
The way because we in fact it was weird because I almost sat in the same location for Neri Oxman, and
it was not a problem.
It wasn't a problem. It was just audio was just bad, and then he wasn't talking very loudly, and I think they really just kind of mispositioned his mic or whatever, and so it was a whole lot of things, and because I was kind of excited to listen to him.
If you catch Neri's TED Talk, it's almost exactly the same talk.
Yeah, didn't I send that to you guys? Funny enough, I watched it, and
yeah, I saw it too.
It seemed to be delivered slightly better in a way, I guess.
Yeah, because they force the rules, the TED rules,
right,
which are really important.
Yeah,
they call it the 10 Commandments of TED.
Well,
really?
Okay, so you giving a TED Talk here. Let me ask you this, because Evan had a great idea, because we were talking about that there just seemed to be something missing from the keynotes, and I guess some of it was this kind of trial of a new format,
right?
And maybe not everybody was quite ready there for it, especially like the seated interview didn't fit, with the kind of. It
didn't.
So Evan had an idea about
That's where Neri really rocked everybody else,
exactly,
because she used it perftly.
Yeah.
It was like Russ was spinning in circles when he was up there.
Yeah.
And she would take about 5 minutes per quadrant and walk slowly and work the room.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you've got Rem sitting in a chair and Julia Louis-Dreyfus sitting in a chair facing one direction, and a total failure. So yeah, that's another reason why her talk was so much more well received, I think.
Yep. The red dot.
Yeah.
And they train you that way. Even our stage was like kind of theater in the round, where it stuck out a little bit, but you have to look at each quadrant of the room, and they tell you, obviously make your point, look at the cameras, but then just purposely like aim yourself, even if you're not looking at anybody, just like turn your body.
Yeah. But so like Evan, your idea about this, the keynotes for like say even next year, of basically having kind of a cluster of really kind of interesting, inspirational, diverse kind of layers of keynotes, but in a TED format where you only get 20 minutes or so.
I think that would be great.
Could be kind of like labeled as I don't know, I can't remember what I said, but it was kind of like what's going on in the profession now, and then just people give kind of a cross section of the different things that are happening, not just architecture, but
yes.
Things like equity by design, things like
resiliency,
the some of the social volunteer work that's going on in architecture, just a variety of different things that give you a cross section of what the profession is really doing, and not just a couple of, okay, so I'm going to tell you about what I think is going on in architecture, and we'll talk about it on where you can't hear it for a half an hour to an hour,
right?
Agreed.
I mean,
a lot of people walked out of that talk.
A lot of people walked out of the talk, which was unfortunate. A lot of people fell asleep during the talk, which was also unfortunate. And I don't think that's what the AIA was really hoping for or going for when they did this kind of theater in the round type format. But I think since it was new, they weren't quite sure how to use it. And
and it was right after lunch. All right. So till next time, I'm sure we'll talk again when we get closer to the next symposium. But Always good talking to you.
Likewise. Thanks.
Thank you, Rosa.
All right.
Take care.
Before we go, we'd like to thank our sponsors, RCAT, DBI, and Drobo. You can find out more about each of them in the show notes. So visit our website at archispeakpodcast.com for links to our catalog of episodes. You can also sign up for our newsletter that includes links to everything we mention in each episode. Between episodes, join the conversation by leaving comments at archispeakpodcast.com and on our Facebook page or Twitter. Links can be found by visiting the site at archispeakpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
You have to walk it, you can start now, or you can hang your head in despair. It's the only road to take you there. They may tell you that you'll never recover, baby. I've learned one thing or another about you. It's the only road to get you there. And if they don't know how to treat a lady, maybe you can teach them how to act. They could use a little bit of discipline and a hand on the backside, baby. Let's pretend you're doing the right thing. And while we're at it, happy opposite day. Some like to hug, some leave a bruise, some make go. I'm ready for you. Hey, put your skates on. On once again. Hey, hey, on. I think you like your skates on. Greats on the real world. It manufactures glory for the feeling distractions. Photos and truth like a tractor, a cracked actor, a mother of pearl. And if they don't know how to hold a woman, maybe you can put them back in their place. They could use a little bit of discipline and a hand across their face.